Welcome back to Otaku Daikun. Dai here, and it's time for some more lore of Fate Grand Order. We're finally entering into the next chapter, or sub-chapter, known as Ordeal Call. The premise behind this new dilemma is complex, and I hope to convey it to you as simply yet precisely as possible. My videos are not merely summaries, but overview analyses that explain things from the ground up. This means certain details, which are hidden in the story for dramatic effect, are spread wide open ahead of time. That said, we have a bit of ground to cover before we start with Ordeal Call 1. Last we left off, Chaldea had just learned that the alien god was not, in fact, you Olga Marie. Like the other apostles, she was just another pawn for the real alien god, which was right under our noses the entire time. When Chaldea's founder, Marsbury Animesphere, set out to protect the human order, he created a device called Chaldeus, not to be confused with Chaldea. It's a miniature replica of the Earth made to predict the future. Turns out, Chaldeus isn't merely a projection of the Earth, it's actually a separate planet all its own, and has been manipulating events all along. Chaldeus, which we can now call the Alien World, is the true alien god and the culprit behind the bleached Earth and Lost Belts. When we were all chased from Chaldea's base in Antarctica, Anastasia froze Chaldeus, preserving it rather than destroying it. According to Sion, this all has some bizarre implications. She theorizes that, rather than bleaching the Earth directly, Chaldeus simply used displacement magecraft to swap its texture with ours. In other words, Chaldeus was the planet that got bleached, and it transferred that bleaching to our Earth. Sounds morbid, but if that's the case, it's also possible that Chaldeus now resembles proper human history. Ideally, we can reverse the swap and get things back to normal. During Traum, Moriarty brought us to the laboratory of Area 51, where Specimen E was. Based on the data Mashu recovered, our computer, Trismegistus II, asserts that lab was not from our Earth, but rather Chaldeus's. This makes sense if Chaldeus did indeed swap its surface for ours. We never considered this because the lab looked like it was using modern technology. Chaldeus, which is supposed to resemble Earth 100 years from now, should have looked a lot more advanced. If that really were Chaldeus, then that might mean all its people died out and no advancements were made for 100 years. It's a very weird situation. As far as I understand it, Specimen E was tortured and experimented on within the tiny world of Chaldeus. Trismegistus II classifies it as a sort of human. At some point, Chaldeus' surface was bleached, but we have no idea how or why. All we know is that it wiped out all life aside from Specimen E. Eventually, that bleached surface was swapped for ours, making it seem like our Earth got bleached, when in reality, ours is now covering the surface of Chaldeus. Kadok thinks that when Specimen E became the master of Traum's Grail War, it was an attempt to take revenge on proper human history for bleaching Chaldeus. As Chaldeus' last survivor, it represented its humanity as a whole, gaining the ability to summon tons of servants. Is that revenge justified? Who knows? We still need to figure out exactly what caused the bleaching. If Marsbury is behind it, we wonder how that could possibly help humanity's survival. We also speculate that Gaetia's incineration of humanity was a completely separate, unexpected ordeal that, for a time, put a dent in Marsbury's plan. We may have started out following that plan, but now that we've been so thoroughly deceived, we're not about to just blindly accept his methods. Our current Chaldea, Novum Chaldea, aims to move forward of our own will. This makes getting back to Antarctica more pressing than ever. Unfortunately, though, we've got a whole new problem. Right at the Antarctic Circle, the storm border runs into an invisible wall designed exclusively to keep us out. Mashu immediately recognizes this barrier as something akin to her noble phantasm, Lord Camelot, which operates on the collective will of humanity. She surmises then that the human order, its will to survive, is actively getting in our way. Nothing, not even the Zero Sail, can bypass this barrier. I guess it makes sense. Now that the human order resides on the surface of Chaldeus, it's weary of us coming to interfere. We're being perceived as a threat. On the Stormborder's deck, that Romani lookalike calling himself the Chaldean reveals that humanity rejected us because we're so abnormal. Specifically, we keep summoning servants who don't fall into the 7 classes facilitated by the counterforce. The Throne of Heroes never accounted for extra classes like Rulers, Avengers, Alter Egos, Foreigners, or Moon Cancers. Yet here we are, using them like they were perfectly normal. Personally, I wouldn't say that's our fault, since most of these servants started shit with us first. Regardless, proper human history no longer sees us as one of them, despite all our efforts to save it. To be fair, even before we came along, Chaldea didn't have the best track record. A lot of its technology is sketchy. Demi-servants like Mashu were invented from horrific experiments. But yeah, since she's one of those extra classes, we can't just forsake all of those extra servants. Instead, we now have to embark on quests that help us understand the fundamental nature of the extra classes. By properly confronting the truth behind each class, we can slowly but surely get back into humanity's good graces. The Chaldean refers to this mission as our Ordeal Call. Admittedly, the logic here is extremely flimsy. Long story short, Ritska and company have a few more singularities to resolve before getting access to Antarctica. To measure our progress, the Nemo series have invented the Foundation of Humanity board, which assigns a letter grade to humanity's approval of us. Right now, we're at rank E, but as we resolve more singularities, we can raise that grade up to A. The device is also supposed to detect when human order violations are taking place. We're essentially going to do some planet-wide community service, resolving the very same issues we're being accused of. In prison terms, we'll be lucky if they let us out on good behavior. Until a singularity emerges, we're stuck waiting, all alone in the vast whiteness. Our very first Ordeal Call takes place in a simulation, drawing in heroic spirits primarily from Hindu mythology. The extra class being investigated here are alter egos, independent servants born from isolated aspects of an existing hero. In all, it's called the Zero Compass Inner Domain of Paper Moon, but what the hell does that mean? The Paper Moon is an imaginary number observation device, a mystic code that helps navigate both real and imaginary space. While it currently resides in the Storm Border, it was originally made at the Atlas Institute by none other than our very own Sion Eltnam Sakaris. Recall that Atlas is a branch of the Mages Association consisting of alchemists who seclude themselves to a base in Egypt. These mages specialize in predicting the end of the world, with each one focusing on a single possibility they want to avoid. In that endeavor, they create superweapons meant to protect this world, though sometimes these mystic codes are so deadly they too can bring about global demise. Sion is the adopted daughter of Atlas's head mage Zepia, who transferred the Paper Moon to her control on her 8th birthday. As part of her partnership with Chaldea, she's agreed to lend it to us for navigation. Functionally, the Paper Moon is how we've been able to zero sail, using imaginary space to bypass the storm wall around Lost Belts. It still remains our most reliable compass, until some sort of error occurs. Sion won't figure out what's actually wrong with it for a while now, but that's not my problem. On the outside, Paper Moon looks fairly innocuous, but on the inside, it is a complex system managed by a central AI known as Rani the 12th. Now, if you've ever played Fate Extra, you'll recognize the character Rani the 8th. She's a cutting-edge Atlas homunculus fighting in the Mooncell Holy Grail War and is extremely intelligent. It's hard to pinpoint where Rani the 8th fits in with FGO's timeline, but it's clear that Atlas used both her appearance and personality for the Paper Moon's core administrator. While the homunculus Rani was named as the 8th woman, this Rani uses her version number, 12. Her job is to maintain the inner workings of the Paper Moon so that it continues to function. However, things changed when she got her hands on a Holy Grail. I have no fucking clue how a Grail manifested inside a computer, but it did. With it, she did what most Atlas alchemists do, predict the world's end and try to solve it. Well, it doesn't take a genius to tell the Earth is screwed, but as far as fighting back, Rani the 12th reasoned Chaldea didn't have enough strength. Whatever challenges still lie ahead of us, she thinks we're gonna fail without some more military might. Thus, she set out to find a way to create additional servants. Sounds crazy, right? Servants can't be manufactured, or can they? It's been done before. Take BB, for example. She herself was an aspect of Fate Extra's Sakura Mato, an AI caretaker in the Mooncell War. Gone rogue, BB bolstered her forces by birthing alter ego servants. Each one started as a small piece of BB's personality and was then supplemented with other legends. Meltrelus, for instance, was made from BB's pleasurable side, along with Artemis, Leviathan, and Sarasvati. Passion Lip was made from BB's pursuit of love and hate, supplemented by Parvati, Durga, and Brynhildr. Even though they first came from BB, they now exist as servants all their own. Turns out, alter ego servants can emerge even without the help of other saint graphs or divine spirits. Chaldea's Shu Fu, for instance, isn't the one from proper human history. It is a version of Shu Fu, born exclusively from her devotion to Yu Mei Ren. For the most part, she can fight like the original Shu Fu, but is summoned separately. Theoretically, you could isolate other aspects of Shu Fu and turn them into even more servants. Rani XII believes that, with a Grail's power, she can do this for countless servants, resulting in an infinite supply. Thus, without Chaldea's permission, Rani XII implements the AEC method, otherwise known as Alter Ego Centrifuge. By rapidly spinning the paper moon's inner domain, she can separate someone's personality into different parts, a lot like how a real centrifuge can isolate a mixed liquid into layers based on density. To power this centrifuge, as well as filter out the weaker servants, she also holds what she calls a system grail war. By having participants fight each other, she can select for the very best alter egos while harvesting their energy for repeated iterations. Under the guise of performing maintenance on the paper moon, Rani XII turned it into an alter ego factory. She was only able to do this by summoning her very own servant, Durga, the Hindu goddess of war, created to fight demons that the gods of heaven could not defeat on their own. She was gifted their divine armaments and wrath, which were enough to prevail over her demonic foes, specifically the demon god Mahisha. In that regard, Durga became the polar opposite of Parvati. Rather than gentle and graceful, she was fierce, solely focused on slaughtering her enemies. Even so, being a facet of Parvati, Durga too was considered Shiva's bride. Despite her fury then, she loved her husband dearly and wishes to reunite with him as a servant. It's also worth noting that Durga herself has a separate form, a child of sorts called Kali. When fighting the Asuras, Sumba and Nisumba, Durga became so angry that a god of fury spawned from her third eye. Kali was so powerful that only Shiva could calm her rage. Technically, both Durga and Kali are one and the same. While the servant Rani summons is the archer Durga, she is also the alter ego Kali, who yearns to take control of the paper moon as a means of calling Shiva. Rani doesn't know this and proceeds with the ritual. So, how exactly does this ritual work? At the start, Rani divides the paper moon's inner world into 6 partitions. She remains in a central church building, serving as the war's overseer. Each of the 6 partitions handles one of the paper moon's essential needs, such as growing materials, storing them, transporting them, and turning those materials into tools. The building block for these materials is a substance called Raniment, which is a substitute for mana, as well as a callback to BB's Sakurament from Fate Extra. A series of more generic Rani-type AI inhabit each partition, performing tasks like blood cells in a human body. For instance, one partition, Repair, is responsible for healing AI when they're injured in battle. The first 5 partitions surround a 6th one in the center. From a distance, it looks like Midgar from Final Fantasy VII, with the Shinra building in the middle. This is Rani's territory, Defend, which serves as a neutral zone where participants are forbidden from attacking one another. To conceal her true intentions, Rani disguises her servant Durga as Defend's prime AI, a bodysuit Rani that commands a team of AI in protecting Paper Moon from unexpected defects. There's definitely some irony here. One type of defect emerges directly from Rani's ritual. She's so eager to manufacture alter egos that she ignores the fact that some servants can only be stretched so thin. Certain aspects of a hero's personality aren't present enough to stand on their own. They wind up as shadow servants that wander around attacking AI. That means there's a brutal limit to how far she can push this, yet she proceeds regardless of the side effects. Modeled off Fuyuki's Grail Wars, Rani arranges for each of the other partitions to have its own master and servant. Naturally, each servant is an alter ego separated from existing legends. The war will help determine which of them is actually worthy of aiding Chaldea. Depressingly, Rani also considers Ritsuka to be incapable of handling such a massive army of alter egos. Thus, she mass-produces masters meant to ultimately replace us. They too prove their worth by winning the war, although they're being deceived. Each of the war's masters is led to believe the Grail War will grant their wish. This is a farce, though. In truth, Rani plans to assimilate with the winner, allowing them to become the next war's overseer. To that end, Rani hopes to gather all the best aspects of the ideal master into a single entity. From the pool of the Paper Moon's other AI, Rani creates these masters as prime AI in charge of their respective regions. Essentially, she takes one of the partition's regular AI and upgrades them. Rather than a generic Rani, these prime AI are supposedly given a randomized appearance and persona. As we'll learn, though, this is another lie. Most of the war's masters are experiments where Rani repurposes data obtained from our journey thus far. The easiest to explain would be the prime AI of Build. Rani took the appearance and ambitions of a young Makiri Zolgan and combined them with the bratty personality of Shinji Mato. The result is an alter ego master who embraces cowardly tactics and merciless efficiency. He milks his subordinate AI of all their Raniment and invades other partitions to consume and slaughter their respective AI. He hopes that by amassing more Raniment than anyone else, he can become undefeatable. His servant is even nastier. Surely you're familiar with Gilles de Rais. We encountered him way back in Orleans, though he's much more famous for his appearance in Fate Zero. In life, the dude served Jeanne d'Arc and lost his faith in God when she was burned at the stake. Hoping to invoke God's wrath, he started delving into black magic while molesting and torturing innocent children. Normally, we see him as his noble saber form, as well as his nefarious caster form. What Zolgan uses in this Grail War is fundamentally different. You see, Gilles' disgusting crimes served as the inspiration for a fictional character named Bluebeard. In the story of Bluebeard, he's a depraved man who goes away and leaves his wife with a magical house key. However, he specifically tells her never to unlock a room in the basement, and that he'll know if she does. Tempted by curiosity, the wife peeks in that room and finds the corpses of all Bluebeard's ex-wives. As expected, he returns home and tries to add her to his collection. Compared to Gilles, Bluebeard is simply a mass murderer, not even knowing who Jeanne d'Arc is. Nevertheless, Rani's centrifuge makes an alter ego of Gilles where his Bluebeard counterpart is able to live. He looks like a saber, but is actually a caster. His forbidden red room manifests as a den of Lovecraftian monsters which pour out and massacre Paper Moon's AI. You can tell something's off about this Gilles, as he's always in search of a new bride, even though the real Bluebeard was clearly obsessed with his beloved Jeanne. Next, let's talk about Repair's master and servant. It's easier to introduce the servant first in this case. Duryodhana is a famous figure from the Mahabharata, the same Indian epic poem featuring Karna and Arjuna. That story centers around the Kurukshetra war between two families, the Kauravas and Pandavas. According to the story, Duryodhana and his 99 siblings were all born at once, in the form of a single mass of flesh. The sage Vyasa then separated them into 100 individual children. The siblings' inability to accept the 5 Pandava princes led to all-out war. During that war, Duryodhana recruited other famous warriors like Ashvatthama and Karna. As an outsider to all this, I can't help but view anecdotes of his exploits as underhanded. When his own fighting ability couldn't carry him, Duryodhana drugged and bound his rival. He and his uncle Shakuni rigged a dice game, forcing the Pandavas into exile. Despite mocking them over this, Duryodhana later needed their help after being captured. Even when looking like the bad guy, he still insists the Pandavas were the evil ones. Fittingly, I suppose, he himself was defeated by underhanded means. In his last battle, Duryodhana's opponent Bhima unfairly struck him below the belt. He's summoned to the Paper Moon to fight as a berserker, and he uses this chance to redeem his historic death. Overall, he's a very charismatic man who brings a lot to the table, for better and worse. He's strong yet arrogant, charitable yet selfish. He also seems hell-bent on seeking out a certain woman, his only sister Dusala, the 101st Karava sibling. However, he doesn't remember what kind of woman he's supposed to be seeking. Assuming his instincts are telling him to seek a bride, he sizes up every woman he meets, naturally pissing them off. Ironically, Duryodhana's sister is right under his nose the entire time. For Repair's master, Rani made a prime AI from part of the servant's own legend. This girl, Ajis, was modeled directly from Dusala, though she doesn't realize it until much later. In life, Dusala was married to King Jayadratha, but left behind when he and her brothers went off to fight in the war. She wanted to support her brothers, but never got the chance. She only found out they died when Arjuna came to her country. This sentiment carries over to Ajis in the form of a yearning for family. She wants to win the System Grail War and make all of the Paper Moon's AI part of her family. To be fair, family is something you can make, and isn't exclusively hereditary, but it sucks that Rani doesn't actually plan to grant any of these wishes. Luckily, Ajis has her eldest brother with her at all times. She just isn't aware of it. Nonetheless, the two do seem to bicker like siblings if you ask me. These certainly aren't the only Indian heroes to show up either. Duryodhana's rival Bhima happens to be the Lancer-class servant of Keep's partition. Bhima, or Bhimasena, is Arjuna's older brother, another of the 5 Pandava brothers. He was born from the wind god Vayu and blessed with incredible strength. Despite being a slayer of Rakshasa, he once had a child with one. Back then, he killed a Rakshasa named Hidimba, and he was gonna kill her sister too, but then she fell in love with him. One of Bhima's brothers convinced him to give the sister a chance, and on a whim, he complied. In that regard, Bhima follows his own whim above all else, doing whatever he feels like on the spot. He's usually a noble warrior, but one incident broke that honor. After Duryodhana exposed his thigh to Bhima's wife, this Pandava warrior swore to crush that thigh in battle. Sure enough, even though it was against the rules, he struck Duryodhana below the belt and killed him. Strangely though, this particular version of Bhima has no recollection of such a dishonor. Rather, he is an alter ego born from his love for cooking. At one point in the past, Bhima hid his identity while cooking at King Virata's palace. He enjoyed this time, putting a smile on customers' faces. Thus, while Bhima is certainly as strong as ever, this particular alter ego sets aside his lance to instead man the grill. Unless absolutely necessary, he prioritizes trying to please his master with his cooking. The AI in this war thrive off Ranimund, which can be harvested and processed into edible rations. Bhima's expertise innovates this system, producing dishes with actual flavor that explode in popularity. Almost everyone, even his enemies, praise his cuisine, yet sadly, his own master does not. Keep's prime AI, Sarajera, was modeled after one of Caldea's own staff. Thus far, she's only been mentioned in passing, but among the Stormborders crew is a Portuguese woman named Sarajera Elron. On the original team, she served as a records keeper and found living in Antarctica quite boring. That said, she passed the time with her colleagues, including one guy who clearly had a crush on her. The man finally asked her out on the very same day that Gordolf, Kirei, and Koyanskaya arrived at Chaldea. In the spur of the moment, Sarajera wound up being the one who let them in, accidentally enabling their invasion and takeover. At the same time, that boy she liked was killed in the crossfire. Ever since, she's harbored a tremendous guilt. Even though she couldn't have known any better, Sarajera wonders if she could have averted the attack somehow. This mental angst made her a fitting candidate for the Paper Moon's AI. Thus, Rani made a master out of Sarajera's data. Her memories are intentionally hidden, while the guilt persists. Not knowing the cause of this guilt, she reluctantly participates without any drive. It's not that she doesn't like Bhima's cooking, but rather, she feels she isn't worthy of experiencing happiness. Keep wouldn't be able to cook dishes if it weren't for the Grow partition, where materials are directly farmed. Its prime AI and master is based on Sakura Mato, not necessarily her memories, but rather her appearance and pleasant demeanor. She and her other Rani AI absolutely love putting in hard work on the farm. Even though partitions are supposed to be at war with one another, Sakura doesn't mind growing materials that everyone can use. All she wants to do is protect her home and the people in it. Appropriately, her servant winds up being Medusa, specifically an alter ego variant who takes the role of this war's saber. We all know Medusa by now, right? She was born as one of 3 Gorgon sisters, but was cursed by Athena to eventually transform into a hungry monster. For a time, she haunted the Shapeless Isle until the hero Perseus came and lopped her head off. As a rider, her noble phantasm was Bellerophon, the bridle used to mount and command Pegasus. It's rather strange, but historical legend states that Medusa never actually rode Pegasus in life, as it was her death that gave birth to the enchanted horse. According to fate, however, Pegasus was actually a gift from Poseidon, one which her sisters would occasionally use. That said, there was a being born from Medusa's bleeding corpse, and that was Chrysaor. This warrior was born fully formed with a golden sword in hand. He, in turn, fathered other children, such as the 3-headed giant Geryon and Echidna, the mother of monsters. By extension, Medusa herself can be considered a mother of monsters. Her saber form, then, is an alter ego consisting mainly of Chrysaor's legend. Her noble phantasm invokes her son's name, conjuring monsters with every slash of her blade. Reluctantly, there's also an aspect of Athena sealed within her, making this Medusa even more divine than before. To that end, she has a motherly quality to her, wanting to protect Sakura just like she did in Stay Night. However, she approaches this coldly, intentionally distancing herself from Sakura to avoid getting sentimental. Recalling her cursed legend, she'd rather not bring harm to anyone she cares about. The last master-servant pair already within the Paper Moon happened to be from Transfer, a partition meant to distribute resources across territories. Its master is fairly complicated. Liner Gusion is a prime AI based off an aspect of Lev Liner, the piece of crap who sabotaged Chaldea at the start of this story. Even back then, Lev was said to have 3 different personalities, each with their own name. First was Lev Uval, his base persona as a talented mage from a long-running bloodline. He prioritized the past, meaning he would foster and facilitate his family's techniques. Another personality was Gusion, an aspect obsessed with the future. It was through this persona that he foretold his own doomed future. That, of course, was being transformed into his third persona, the demon god Flauros. As I said at the beginning of this series, on Fate Stay Night's timelines, Lev killed himself to prevent Flauros from manifesting. In FGO, however, Lev succumbed to his curse and facilitated Gaetia's incineration of humanity. Liner Gusion here is simply the aspect concerned with future endeavors. His clairvoyance allows him to set up extremely complex spells and store them in void space for later use. He can ensure that an army's worth of Raniment or mana is available at just the right place and time to strike. Unlike the Lev we see in Chaldea, this guy's fairly amicable, finding no need for combat until the time is right. Gusion's servant is another twist on a familiar hero. Gao Changgong, better known as the beautiful Prince of Lanling, was an esteemed general of China's Qi dynasty. Despite a life of loyal servitude to the empire, his efforts were met with skepticism. When Lanling's kin, Gao Wei, ascended the throne, he feared being usurped. To exterminate any potential seeds of betrayal, he sent Lanling a cup of poison, demanding the general take his own life. Lanling hoped to avoid this outcome, willing to commit evil acts that would stain his reputation. Regardless, he was still praised for his achievements, making the emperor even more concerned. In the end, Lanling drank the poison and passed away. The saber form we met in the Chinese Lost Belt was silent yet caring, chivalrous yet stoic. This alter ego, however, is born exclusively from the end of his life. It was his desperate plea to survive that drove him to evil. Lanling as a writer, then, has discarded his humanity entirely. As a servant, he wants to be called by Gao Changgong and pledges himself to be no more than a tool, complying with every order given to him. Hidden behind his mask, he turns a blind eye to his former identity, willing to commit even more evils if need be. By removing his mask, revealing his true face, he triggers a noble phantasm which empowers his allies while weakening his foes. Rani likes to think her calculations are foolproof. However, she doesn't anticipate Ritsuka getting involved with the war. Not sure why, given her Grail War technically has 6 masters and servants, leaving room for one more pair. When the System Grail War starts, it unintentionally drags in Ritsuka as well as Sion, turning them both into alter egos. Chosen as the final master, we get our own servant. BB admits later that she or her Sakura 5 would have made the most sense as candidates. They're already alter egos, and BB holds power over the moon, symbolically anyway. It's not like the paper moon has anything to do with the moon cell. Even so, BB passed up that opportunity to give Kama a chance in the spotlight. Recall that Kama/Mara was our enemy during the Oku event. Just like Kiara Sesshoin, she sought to become a beast of humanity, using her own brand of love. She was a god of love, after all, now using Sakura's body as a pseudo-servant. Her particular brand of love is selfless, whereby she spreads herself across the universe, pledging her love to every living being by adjusting herself to fit their sensibilities. Her goal was to use the Oku to plunge Ritsuka into moral depravity and lustful decadence. Even after we kicked her ass, she still tries to corrupt us as a Chaldean servant. In legend, Kama was ordered to shoot Shiva with a love arrow to get him to acknowledge Parvati's affection. This pissed Shiva off, and so he burned Kama to ashes with his third eye. In that regard, Kama's always been giving and sharing love, while never receiving it. BB, however, noticed that deep down, there's a part of Kama that yearns to be loved, and extracted that aspect into its own alter ego. That is the version of Kama that joins us in the System Grail War. She's more or less the same goddess, but rather than being completely selfless, she now works hard to receive praise and head pats. Aww. That leaves us with Sion. She's dragged into the Paper Moon, but has no specific role to play. While she's Chaldea's ally, she doesn't consider herself our friend. In fact, she feels it's critical to keep us at a distance, predicting that sometime in the future, it'll be advantageous to be considered an outsider. Right now, only she knows what the hell that means. That said, there's a part of her that wants to be our friend anyway, and that one aspect winds up being the Sion we encounter inside. Her childhood yearning for friendship takes precedence as she helps guide us through the war. So that's the entire background of this episode. To summarize, Chaldea uses a device called the Paper Moon. It observes the world, both in real and imaginary space. Its central AI, based off the Atlas homunculus Rani, gains special power when finding a Holy Grail. Deciding Ritsuka doesn't have enough firepower for upcoming battles, this Rani the 12th AI invents a way to manufacture infinite alter ego servants through a repetition of simulated Grail Wars. The Paper Moon is structured into a battlefield where 5 servants fight alongside Prime AI handcrafted by Rani herself. She observes this war from the center, protected by her own servant Durga, who's disguised as another Rani series AI. Rani doesn't account for the Paper Moon dragging Ritsuka in to fight as a 6th master, nor the appearance of Sion, the Paper Moon's own creator. At first, Ritsuka, Sion, and Kama don't even realize they're inside the Paper Moon. Sadly, this conversion process has left Ritsuka feeling dizzy and frail. The minor changes they notice in each other become suspicious, but they don't initially suspect it's because they've been made into alter egos. How could they? We explore the repair partition and discover some of Gilles' tentacle monsters attacking the generic repair Ranis. After saving one of them, it leads us to more endangered Ranis, along with Repair's Prime AI Ajus and Duryodhana. Clearly, Gilles de Rais, aka Bluebeard, is hunting the Ranis for their Raniment, enjoying the slaughter. Ritsuka, being such a kind lad, has Kama fight him off. Oddly enough, while Gilles is searching for a new bride, he actually rejects Kama, as she's in her child ascension. This should have been a red flag, as the real Gilles de Rais had no problem preying on children. Anyway, after the battle, Ritsuka passes out. We wake up at Repair's HQ, where Ajus thanks us for coming to her rescue. She helps explain the System Grail War and assumes we're also a participant. Rather than fight us, she wants us to team up with her, at least until we speak with the central Rani AI. Duryodhana accepts this arrangement, but immediately starts planning to betray us as soon as the moment is right. Neither Sion nor Kama seem to be the woman he's looking for. It really doesn't help that he thinks he might be looking for a wife, and as such, immediately rejects Ajus as a candidate. I guess that'll be a good thing until he realizes he's looking for his sister. For now, this urge to ogle every girl he finds is merely a whisper from inside his heart. Unfortunately, being converted to this virtual world has really screwed Ritsuka up, and to stabilize us, Rani has fused herself to us with her main weapon, the Ether Light. This is a callback to Melty Blood. It's like an energy whip that can hijack people's brains, scan them, and even control them. In this case, Sion's jacked into our command spells, and vows to share responsibility as Kama's master. For a time then, our support spells get a nice upgrade. So yeah, with that settled, we set out toward the central defense partition, where hopefully Rani the 12th can better explain things. Along the way, Duryodhana tries to fight us, but upon losing, acts like it was only just a test of our skill. Yeah, right, dude wants to kill us. As soon as we meet Rani, Sion tries to scan her with Etherlight. I suspect if Sion succeeded, this whole Grail War could have been much shorter. Even though Sion claims to have created the Paper Moon, she doesn't have any administrative privileges in its virtual world. Rani is surprised to see Ritsuka here, but doesn't consider it a threat to her plan. Instead, Rani leads us to believe that we need to win this Grail War if we want to return home. Since we lack our own territory, Ajus offers to let us stay with her in Repair. Duryodhana agrees, but only because he naively thinks he can beat us further down the line. In the meantime, he plans to use us as a diversion or shield, so he can live long enough to fight his nemesis Bhima. In addition to those strange shadow servants I mentioned earlier, Paper Moon occasionally generates bugs, malignant data that the Defend Ranis must fight. As good Samaritans, we help out and are rewarded with Raniment. Turns out, there are plenty of ways to obtain Raniment without killing the Ranis, making this particular Grail War more cordial than the others. Technically, none of the AIs have names of their own, even though they're based off real people. Instead, it's the servants and other participants who feel the need to give these AI names. Ajus, for instance, means life. We try to give the Prime Defend AI a nickname. Ajus helps settle on the name DX, not knowing the D stands for Durga. We arrive back at Repair HQ, only to find the place being raided by Gilles and his master. Kama and Duryodhana try slaying the tentacle monsters, but don't have enough Raniment to keep up as they spawn. The Prime AI in this war are each given a single command spell, though I don't think it's like the Fuyuki Wars, where, once that last spell is used, the Master-Servant Pact is severed. Either way, just before Ajus is about to expend her only spell, we're all saved by the arrival of Liner Gusion and Gao Changgong. Apparently, they've come in person to ensure that one of the Rani T models from Transport can get fixed up. Now that the fight is 3 servants against 1, Makiri Zolgin orders Gilles to retreat. Even though we're thankful, the sudden aid seems suspicious. The current Ritsuka has memory issues, but still feels reluctant to trust Liner. Why would he come here personally just to escort a single AI? In truth, he's scoping out all of the Paper Moon, slowly but surely laying the pieces for a grand spell he uses later on. That night, the Repair Rani go to sleep in pods, but luckily there's a room big enough to accommodate Ritsuka, Kama, and Sion. They all share the room, suspicious of each other. Fortunately, Kama's not dangerous in a traditional sense, but she does try to snuggle up to Ritsuka in bed and is deterred by Sion's Etherlight. Lame. Unable to sleep, we declare that even though the Rani AI are just programs, we don't want to see them suffer. We refuse to harm them just to get an advantage in the war. Fortunately, Ajus agrees with the sentiment. She'd like everyone to seem like a big, happy family, though it seems Sion and Kama hate the idea of being treated as Ritsuka's sisters. Clearly, they're not into wincest. Kama deliberately ascends to her older self to avoid such allegations. Whenever the Rani T models make a delivery, they request a tip. Having nothing else to give, though, Kama grants them adorable flower accessories, bearing a similar design to her arrows. For breakfast, we eat some Rani mint-infused rations, and are pleasantly surprised to see them in the form of Indian naan. Since Duryodhana knows Bhima must have cooked them, he stubbornly refuses. After watching everyone eat without him, though, he reasons he needs all the strength he can muster to defeat Bhima, even if that means eating his nemesis's food. Over in the keep partition, Bhima continues trying to make Sarajera smile with his food. After failing, he wants to go gather some new ingredients, preferably from the grow partition directly. Sarajera doesn't want to go, especially since it's enemy territory, but Bhima vows not to fight until he turns that frown upside down. Our team goes about gathering Rani Mint the honest way, as a reward for repairing other AI and fighting off bugs. Eventually, though, we receive a formal request to aid the Grow region, Sakura's turf. They're in danger, and Duryodhana insists we answer their call, thinking he'll encounter Bhima there. During a flashback, we discover Bhima was there, but not as a threat. He and his master stopped by to check out Sakura's storehouse of materials. Because Medusa was giving her the cold shoulder, Sakura was pleased that someone took an interest in her work. While Medusa was protective of Sakura, she relented, giving Bhima the chance to craft his next recipe. At the storehouse, Sakura became friends with Sarajera. Even though the latter was still suffering from immense guilt, Sakura reached out a helping hand. Still, while Bhima and his master could be trusted, Medusa was right to be wary. An explosion rang out across the field, with Zolgan and Gilles mounting another assault. It is this attack that led to Sakura sending out an SOS, though she didn't expect anyone to answer. It's important to note that Makiri Zolgan wasn't always a total douchebag in life. In his youth, he had ambitions of reaching the root for the betterment of mankind. He cooperated with the Ainsburns and Tosakas to realize their collective dream. It took years of soul degradation between different bodies for Zolgan to become the Zoken motto we know. This virtual Zolgan retains his wish for the root, and is mainly cruel in his approach thanks to an element of Shinji thrown in. For this attack, he's confident that even if things get dicey, he can always have Bluebeard open up the Red Room and unleash more horrifying creatures. Even though she'd prefer to wait till later, Medusa removes her glasses and begins petrifying the monsters with her mystic eyes. Sakura, however, is in distress seeing her Ranis get devoured. She also lacks the Rani Mint needed to fuel Medusa's eyes. While fatigued, she's injured by one of the creatures, and just as things are looking dire, we show up to save them. Medusa doesn't want to trust us, but is willing to let Ajus treat Sakura's wounds. Unfortunately, there's only so much Ajus can do. Sakura is both an AI and a master. While Ajus can heal the AI parts, she can't fully repair her master components. On the front line, Kama and Duryodhana push back Gilles' familiars, proving that even though they lack the same amount of energy as their opponent, they use what they do have more effectively. In other words, Zolgan's inept. After listening to Gilles' ranting and raving, Xion realizes he must be Bluebeard, and this is confirmed when he admits he doesn't even know who Jeanne d'Arc is. Utterly humiliated, Zolgan orders Bluebeard to invoke his noble phantasm. The alter ego caster transforms into an eldritch abomination akin to the one from Fate Zero, though in this case, it looks like a demonic scrotum. It's both disgusting and powerful, forcing everyone to retreat. Sakura is reluctant to abandon her farm, but does so hoping her Rani AI can escape and reconvene in the defend partition. Unfortunately, that plan has a major problem. Bluebeard's scrotum monster automatically seeks out new sources of Rani Mint and is already headed toward defend, completely ignoring that it's a neutral zone. Again, just like in Fate Zero, Rani the 12th puts the war on hold so we can all work together in slaying Zolgan and Bluebeard, offering a spare command spell for whoever succeeds. Duryodhana doesn't want to team up with Bhima, which kinda works out since Bhima refuses to partake anyway. Liner also backs out of this offer, leaving the fight to Ritsuka, Ajus, and Sakura's servants. Rather than help us directly, Liner continues to set up his elaborate spell. Since the church is where the scrotum monster is headed, presumably for its stock of command spells, we plan to intercept Bluebeard along the way. Killing the big guy should vanquish all the smaller monsters too. Bluebeard himself is at the scrotum's core, so Medusa will keep petrifying parts of it one at a time until he's exposed. To do so, she ascends as Kreesaur, conjuring her own monsters to fight back. Even with all our efforts combined, however, the damn thing just keeps regenerating. Meanwhile, back at the keep partition, Bhima makes his master curry, yet she still doesn't smile. He realizes that Sarajera can't enjoy his food while her heart is still preoccupied. Not only does she feel guilty for no reason, but she's also worried about Sakura, who is now her friend. Understanding how this fight is weighing on her, Bhima agrees to help out. He rushes back to defend and targets Zolgan, who's watching Bluebeard from afar. Bhima slams his lance into Zolgan's back, killing the bastard with a surprise attack. This, in turn, cuts off the scrotum's supply of Ranimund, causing it to wither away and disappear. Even though our team put in the most effort, Rani decides to reward the command spell to Bhima. The best we get is reimbursement for the Ranimund we used. While she won't tell us this directly, Rani is disappointed in the outcome of this fight. She wants more combat and conflict. Luckily for her, circumstances in this war allow Zolgan to stay in the running. You see, when a master is killed in battle, their AI core is exposed for the victor to claim. Bhima didn't do that, so rather than dying altogether, Zolgan can be revived as a new master. By tweaking things just a bit, Rani brings him back to life, repurposed as the adult Zoken Mato. This is why we always need to double tap. Ajus stays in defend to heal as many injured Ranis as possible. This includes the build-type Ranis who are being abused by Zolgan. However, each Rani feels an obligation to repay her with some Ranimund, meaning that those who are broke aren't reaching out for healing. Cleverly, Duryodhana invents a token of sorts that let the Ranis defer payment. This would be a kind gesture, if not for the fact that he tries to scam them on interest fees. He's a douchebag, but he does have his moments. For instance, when he finds an injured Rani in the rubble, he tears off part of his favorite sash to sling her broken arm. Sakura gets a more thorough examination at Repair HQ. She's healed for the most part, but her master components can't be fixed. Even though this makes her weaker than the other masters, Sakura insists on keeping this a secret, as she wants to keep doing her best regardless. To reward Medusa, Sakura invites her to her favorite spot, a hill overlooking Gro's countryside. The two share a picnic lunch together, and even though Medusa tries not to get close, she winds up telling Sakura about her past on the Shapeless Isle. We happen to be on a mission nearby, and crash this humble picnic after slaying more malignant data. Sarajera also shows up and has a private conversation with Sakura. After hearing about Sakura's dream, Sarajera wants to help make it a reality. She wants to protect Gro for Sakura's sake, but her guilt gets in the way. Just when we thought this partition was getting peaceful again, more tentacle monsters show up, along with shadow servants infested by crestworms. Zoken appears, boasting about his revival. Bluebeard is also alive, albeit barely. With the help of some more worms, though, the deranged Bluebeard is once again transformed into the massive scrotum monster. It's even stronger than before, regenerating faster than we can damage it. The only way to kill it is to wipe it out with a single attack, which we just don't have the Ranimund for. You know who does, though? Liner Gusion. Looking toward the future, he anticipated this exact scenario and has been storing Ranimund in pockets of void space for later use. Using his T-type Ranis and Changong's Noble Phantasm, he activates his spell, amplifying the Ranimund and funneling it into a dense energy cannon. He calls it Ranimund Fireworks, and launches a destructive beam that completely roasts Bluebeard once and for all. In the aftermath, Rani declares Liner the victor and grants him jurisdiction over the build partition. Now, whenever a servant is defeated, Rani spins her centrifuge once more, rearranging the partitions so that Master's territories are all in one collective partition. This also means all the participants are sent flying to the Paper Moon's outer perimeter, protected by padding. Ritsuka, of course, gets some extra padding as Kama clings tightly to us during the spin cycle. So yeah, Liner is now the master of build and transfer, both of which have been consolidated into a single sector. Our positions get all screwed up from the spin, so Sion recommends we try to reunite with Ajus as soon as possible. Even though Liner has an advantage now, he's not concerned about fighting the other masters. Instead, he and Chang'e continue to explore the Paper Moon, uncovering the truth behind this war. After witnessing the centrifuge in action, he starts to realize what it's all about. Sadly, since Rani doesn't want anyone learning about her plan, she has Durga snipe him from afar. Chang'e, who refuses to act on his own without orders, is unable to respond in time as an arrow coasts through the sky and fatally strikes Liner. Before dying, he entrusts a task to his servant, who in turn vows not to serve anyone else. Unfortunately, that's not Chang'e's choice to make. Zoken descends on the stray servant and coats him with crestworms. Chang'e did say he wanted to be treated like a tool, but that doesn't mean he wants to become Zoken's puppet. Effectively, Zoken now has Liner's territory and devises a new method of attack. Since Chang'e's noble phantasm excites the Raniment in AI, why not use that to turn the Model T Ranis into kamikaze explosives? With the help of his worms, Zoken can now implement what he calls transfer bombs. The rotten bastard immediately attacks us when we find Ajus and Duryodhana in the keep partition. The two Ranis that Kama gave flowers to are made to explode. Against his will, Chang'e is well and truly a tool for death, and he regrets it. Desperate to resist, he bites his tongue, but it's no use since the worms can always take control if he doesn't cooperate. Strangely, even though his territory is under attack, Bhima prioritizes protecting his master and flees with her in his arms. Duryodhana can hardly believe it, as the Bhima he knows is obsessed with combat. The explosions leave Duryodhana unable to fight with us, at first anyway. While Kama takes to the front line, Ajus pours a substantial amount of Raniment into Duryodhana, begging him to stop Zoken. He thinks running away and exploiting others is a totally valid tactic, but chooses to help out only for the chance to claim the glory and admiration of being Zoken's killer. During the fight, Kama's many arrows seem to be missing Chang'e, but it's actually deliberate. Rather than target the servant, she's aiming for Zoken, setting up the perimeter of a bounded field. Tapping into some of the real Sakura Mato's resentment, she seals Zoken in a barrier with his own crestworms, and then incinerates them all to ash. It's only fitting a Sakura face would put an end to this bastard. Without a master's support, Duryodhana is able to put Chang'e out of his misery. Grateful to be freed from torment, Chang'e reveals that a potential archer servant sniped Liner from far away. He disappears after leaving us an important clue. Even though Kama was arguably the true MVP here, Rani claims Ajus the victor, granting her Zoken's core and territory. It's no biggie. We don't have our own turf to begin with, and Ajus is still our partner. This time around, the centrifuge doesn't separate us from Ajus much, so we make a quick reunion. Build, transfer, and repair have all been consolidated into one partition. All those B-type Ranis are especially happy now that Zoken's dead. They make us customized chess pieces in our likeness, and they look great, though Duryodhana seems to be intentionally misshapen. For a time, we restock all our lost Raniment by performing good deeds. Ready to fight again, our next priority is to investigate this unknown archer servant. Theoretically, if there's another servant out there, then the only other prime AI who could be the master is DX of Defend. Thus, we confront her, inspecting her armorless body for any command spells. We'd like to interrogate her further, but then we spot a number of Cerberai going on a rampage. These dudes are clearly the result of Medusa's noble phantasm, so we hightail it to Grow to see what's up. All this time, Medusa's been trying to keep Sakura at a distance. She blames love for her tragedies in life, being turned into the Gorgon monster by Athena's curse. She knew getting close to Sakura would result in mutual affection. Despite trying to avoid it, she's now awakened to that love and is desperate to protect Sakura. With her master low on Raniment, Medusa will do whatever it takes to harvest more, even if it alienates her from the other participants. It's an extreme measure to be sure, but Sakura's earlier injuries have made it so she burns through Raniment much more quickly. Ritsuka wants to protect all the AI though, so we have little choice but to stop Medusa. Fortunately, we have an edge in this fight, since Kama is also a Sakura face. Thus, Medusa has a hard time fighting full force against her. As a result, Medusa is pushed to the brink of defeat. She tries to take Sakura and flee, but can only go so far. Then, she considers for just a moment targeting Rani for her command spells. This is enough to incur Durga's wrath. Once more, an arrow comes flying from the distance, striking poor Medusa with a fatal blow. Durga's far enough away that she can't be seen, but Medusa's mystic eyes can still petrify her. Just as Medusa glances her attacker though, the petrification is deflected back at her. Before it strikes, Medusa closes one of her eyes, preserving Durga's location. She then uses her final moments to negotiate Sakura's safety with us. We accept, in exchange for intel on the archer who shot her. As an additional parting gift, she offers up her preserved eye, claiming that it's still fixated on her attacker. Sakura bids farewell to her servant, hoping someday they can meet on more amicable terms. It sucks, but there's only so much we can do. Sakura herself is bound to disappear soon from Raniment depletion. She asks to be alone for a while, and takes that time to speak with Sarajera, who's come to visit. Now, Sarajera feels more guilty than ever. She knew Sakura hadn't been fully healed, but did nothing to help her. She could have at least told someone. Sakura doesn't blame her for keeping quiet. Instead, she gives Sarajera some helpful advice. If Sarajera can't rid herself of her guilt, she ought to instead embrace it while staying true to herself. After Sakura vanishes, the centrifuge spins once more, leaving only 3 opponents left: Ritsuka, Aegis, and Sarajera. We could proceed with the war as expected, but Ritsuka wants to look into the mystery for the sake of Paper Moon's AIs. On the way to confront Rani the 12th, DX stands in our way. Without warning, Duryodhana strikes and breaks off DX's faceplate. The fact that she survives this strike indicates she's more than just a typical AI. Seeing this, Rani comes out of the church and decides to reveal DX's true identity. The Prime AI's armor crumbles apart, unveiling she's been Durga the entire time. This news is big enough for Bhima and his master to come take a look for themselves. With everyone present, Rani confesses the truth of this Grail War and her centrifuge. For as nice as having unlimited alter ego work sounds, we're quick to point out the flaws in her logic. At the very least, Ritsuka isn't okay experimenting on Chaldea's servants, forcibly separating them into various alter egos. It's too heavy-handed, as servants will be getting stretched to their absolute limit. Rani, however, disagrees. She reasons we've always used alter egos whenever they emerged. If we can make use of one, why not a handful, or even infinite? In our defense, we've never manufactured alter egos. The ones we encounter seem to occur naturally, or through forces beyond our control. It's not right to abuse them further. Plus, we now know that winning this war won't send us back home. Since Rani won't agree, we have to resolve this through combat. She plans to wipe us all out and start this whole process again from scratch. Aegis joins us in the fight, as she doesn't appreciate being lied to about her dream coming true. Likewise, Sarajera is angry that this whole ordeal toyed with and slandered Sakura's humble dream. Even if one of them were to win the war, they'd simply fuse with Rani to become the next overseer. They'd still be obligated to keep this experiment going, endangering new generations of AI. Both their servants are glad to finally see them pursuing their desires, especially Bhima. He wanted to make his master happy through cooking, but if kicking Rani's ass will do the trick, he's willing to go all out. With the Grail's power, Rani removes her limiters, fully embracing all her administrative authority. In this new, far sexier attire, she declares herself the Dust of Osiris, which is a reference back to the Melty Blood franchise. In that timeline, Sion was a full-on dead apostle, her blood being drunk by a vampire called Tatari, or the Knight of Wallachia. Part of her soul existed within Tatari, and it matured enough for her to actually take control of it. The Dust of Osiris, then, was Sion's awakening within Tatari, who went on to recreate the fighting from the first Melty Blood game. Like Rani the 12th now, Sion's Dust of Osiris was trying to avoid a dystopian future for humanity. Their circumstances were a lot different, though. I think it's best just to assume the title Dust of Osiris is applicable whenever an Atlas alchemist goes Super Saiyan. Fighting Durga turns out to be a fruitless endeavor. She and Rani are cheating after all. They not only use the Paper Moon's own mana, aka Ranimant, but also mana directly from the Holy Grail. Regardless, Bhima and Duryodhana see this as a contest of who can deal out the most damage to Durga. Kama is motivated by Ritsuka's praise, but that can only go so far. Rani funnels all her mana into Durga, along with sapping the Ranimant from all of Defen's AIs. To top it off, she then uses all of her reserve command spells to give Durga an extra push. This winds up being a terrible idea. Durga's been waiting for this moment all along. She doesn't care about preserving humanity, she just wants to reunite with Shiva, even if that means destroying this world. She then reveals herself to be Kali, the empowered rage born from Durga. To conjure Shiva, she aims to reenact part of her own legend. Kali begins to dance, with each stomp of her feet crumbling the ground beneath her. This violent choreography threatens to tear the world apart. In legend, this threat was enough for Shiva to step in. By laying beneath Kali's feet, he would cushion the blow of her stomping until she returned to her senses. Well, there's no guarantee Shiva's gonna show up this time, so it's up to us to save the Paper Moon, along with our own hides. The dance puts a tremendous strain on Rani as its power source, and to keep her alive, Sion hacks into her with the Ether Light. Confiding in our friendship, Ritsuka trusts Sion to take care of Rani while we defeat Kali, which is easier said than done. Kama gets knocked unconscious during the fight and experiences a dream of sorts where BB reveals her nature as an alter ego. Throughout this chapter, Kama's been able to embrace the side of herself that wants to receive love as well as give it. Waking up in the heat of combat, she comes up with a plan to claim victory. All she needs is some time, as well as a good chunk of energy. Too bad Duryodhana gets fatally wounded. Ajus refuses to let him die, and risks her own life to directly establish a link with him. They could always do a proper mana transfer, but I digress. The problem here is that she's an AI and he's a heroic spirit. She needs to adjust her own programming to perceive her servant as another AI, and then feed him Ranimant more efficiently. Ajus regrets not trying this sooner to heal Sakura, but now it's make or break time. Bhima's also too weak to fight, though his solution is a bit simpler. He asks Sarajera for some food that she made. A humble sandwich seems to do the job, as he appreciates her offering. It doesn't actually heal him, but it's a matter of morale. Now that the men are back in action, Kama just needs more mana. A convenient dilemma if this were a doujin. Instead, we're bailed out by Liner once again. Before he died, he made one last preparation for the future. He stored the leftover Ranimant from his spell into a pocket in void space. He may not be alive to see this all through, but he sure can help us out. That Ranimant emerges in the shape of Changong's mask, giving Kama just the amount she needs to put an end to Kali. The only issue here is that it's all data that needs to be unpacked before use. Kali's bound to target Kama as soon as she starts to unpack the data, so Ritsuka needs to help distract her. Fortunately, we have a way to do that. Before this fight, Sion turned Medusa's eye into a mystic code. It contains her Kreesaur noble phantasm, and by tapping into it, Ritsuka can summon monsters just like heroic spirits. Kali takes the bait, going after Ritsuka's Cerberus monsters. We push this mystic code to its breaking point, just barely giving Kama the time to absorb Changong's Ranimant. In a way, Kama's plan is genius, albeit self-destructive. Recall that Kama was originally burned to ashes by Shiva's flame? Turns out, she can still shroud herself in those very flames, at her own expense. Tempted by the smell of her husband's fire, Kali lets her guard down. She knows it's not really her husband, but allows Kama to embrace her all the same. Together, they bathe in those flames till death. poor Kama immolates herself, treating her desire to be loved as a forbidden flaw. Everyone's exhausted after defeating Kali, but now that Duryodhana and Bhima are the only servants left, they insist on dueling each other to the death. Sarajera supports Bhima as her way of seeking atonement. She didn't save Sakura, but she plans to use the Grail to make things better. Ajus, in turn, because her data is falling apart, finally realizes that Duryodhana is her brother and wants to cheer him on, as she never got to do that in life. The duel itself isn't exactly what Duryodhana was hoping for. His insecurity stems from how Bhima dishonorably beat him with a strike to the thigh. This Bhima, however, doesn't remember doing such a thing. Regardless, the two of them give it their all, unleashing their noble phantasms, while their masters expend the very last of their raniment and command spells. Technically, it ends in a draw, with both men defeating each other. Because Bhima's the first to go down, though, Duryodhana feels vindicated. Rani XII, now repaired, declares this the end of the System Grail War. She's forced to admit the flaws in her plan. Not all servants are meant to have alter egos. You can't just isolate their personalities without taking their emotions into consideration. Bhima accepts his loss so long as Sarajera is satisfied. As he disappears, she confesses that she loves his cooking and always has. She just didn't feel she deserved any of that happiness. Similar to what Sakura told her, though, Bhima advises she take her guilt and use it as motivation. Ajus and Duryodhana enjoy their reunion while lamenting how it's already over. As an alter ego born from his own greed, Duryodhana names Ritsuka his proxy, asking us to go out and claim the whole world in his place. Both siblings vanish, completely spent. Ritsuka and Sion plan to take the Grail back with them to reality. This whole paper moon world only exists when observed from the inside. We won't be able to see it anymore, but conceptually, it'll still remain for Sarajera, who agrees to stay on as the new supervisor, mainly to preserve the world Sakura loved. As we go, Sarajera asks Ritsuka to talk to her real-life counterpart. We wake up back on the storm border. Like many of Ritsuka's adventures, it appears this one was a lot like a dream. Both Ritsuka and Sion suddenly fell unconscious, only to wake up much later. Sweet Mashu has been by our side the entire time and is now ordered to get some rest. Ritsuka doesn't actually recall what happened inside the paper moon, but Sion does thanks to her memory partition. While it was nice being Ritsuka's friend, Sion plans to keep her distance going forward. Apparently, it'll pay off in the long run. Whether we remember it or not, it seems our efforts within the Paper Moon have been acknowledged. The Foundation of Humanity board has ranked up from E to D. Was all of this necessary, though? Couldn't we have just sat down and had a nice, long conversation about the nature of alter egos? No? Okay. In the Storm Border's hallway, the real Sarajera comes to apologize. She doesn't recall what happened in the Paper Moon either, but it seems it did give her the courage to finally lay everything on the table. She feels guilty for letting Gordolf and the others into Chaldea's base. There's no way she could have known it would turn out to be a disaster. It's an irrational guilt she carries even after being forgiven. Thankfully, it seems her AI version's resolve passes through to reality. I wouldn't mind seeing more of her. The only Chaldea staff we normally see is Moonier. Even Kama, the full one, seems to have been influenced by her alter ego. Supposedly, Ritsuka was supposed to be an alter ego too, but Sion can't determine what aspect of us it was born from. She only has theories. That said, what we do learn about alter egos is stored away as an essay in Chaldea's database. Shu Fu reads it, giving her own take on things, while the old jazz song It's Only a Paper Moon plays in the cafeteria. So there you have it. This chapter was interesting, to say the least. I was glad to see Kama get more development, and Durga is another bombshell Sakura face. It's clear the Mahabharata still has lots of material for Fate to work with as well. What are your takeaways from Ordeal Call 1? Stay tuned for more exciting lore content, and until next time, celebrate your fandom. Thanks for watching. This channel relies on support from viewers like you.
Please help us out by dropping a like and comment. Subscribe for more videos, and be sure to enable notifications. Or hit up our Discord so you never miss out on a new upload.
Most importantly, if you can spare it, please sign up as a channel member, either through YouTube, Patreon, or Subscribestar. You can find links in the description. We've got perks like exclusive content or early access.
Until next time,
Celebrate your fandom. I want to give a special shout out to all my $10 and up supporters. Video Gamer 75, Dante Pendragon, Stephen Elak, Otaku Mom, Mystic Samurai 1983, Free Brick, Alexis Yukio Gomez Yamato, Lunar Works, Link Pendrago, Observer Bellis, James Hewitt, Uncanny EXP, Crow Calum, Saul Soto, Tristan Riggin, Major, Winter's Edge, Sneer Cachette, Sunbro Torian, Dionysus, Caitlin P, Sogai CH, Sith Lord 906, Vladimir Rovna, The Taz 96, Kengo X77, and Alistair Bernadotte. Thank you all so much.